In today's show, we have another of our popular Dynamite Conspiracy episodes, and we discuss a number of topics. Firstly, the 100th monkey effect. What is it? Secondly, we discuss the Mandela Effect. What is that too? And finally, we discuss the Paris Syndrome.
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasula and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello my friend, I hope you're keeping safe and well.
Yeah, what the hell, Tony, right? Hey, what are you going to do, Tony? What are you going to do?
You got to keep smiling, be cheery, be pumped up. Say hi to our audience.
Really? Saying hi to our audience is supposed to cheer me up, Tony? Okay, hello, audience. How are you? What the hell?
Oh,
So listen, Tony, quick one for you, right?
Oh, no, I thought I managed to get it done before you.
It was something my wife said about me, and I thought, let me see if Tony's going to pick up on this. Knock, knock. A nice, simple knock, knock joke. Can't go wrong, really. Knock, knock.
Who's there? Hello? Anybody there? Do you know what? Our listeners and
About to get
watchers...
silly. They're just going to get silly and silly.
Do you know what? Our armchair listeners and watchers are all really happy. That's your best one yet. Oh,
Anyway, shall we do it properly? Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Two.
To who?
No, Tony. To whom? To whom?
Oh.
He called me pretentious. Yeah, okay.
Oh,
So is that pretentious?
It's terrible.
It's not, is it? No, there you go.
Oh.
Two for the price of one, guys. I'm really cooking.
No, he's not.
Me and Kevin Hart are like this now.
Yeah, of course you. Anyway,
you got a bit of a cough.
I have. Yes, I've just got it today. Just this.
Her upstairs got COVID 3 or 4 days ago.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Gosh.
Three times vaxxed, like me. So
well, it's not COVID. I've got not COVID. If we've had a test.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. Shouldn't we be covered?
Well, yes, but then this new variant has changed significantly. And did you know that there's a new vaccine being trialled very soon? Well, actually, I think it's gone through trial. It's been approved, which does both. It can actually combat the original strains and the new Omicron one as well. So it's a double whammy. And that's being slowly rolled out, and hopefully October time, apparently. Because we're digressing from what we're going to talk about, but Omicron itself is, gratefully it's not as bad, but it can, in significant numbers, it can still affect people who have got a low immune system, poor general health. It's going to knock them out, and in some rare cases now, thankfully, you can still hospitalize, but it's nowhere near as terrible as it used to be. But still, it's worthwhile sort of improving your antibodies once again. But anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not. She's isolated, obviously. I'm not, because you know what happened to me last time. So.
Well, indeed, yes, you've got to keep away for sure. Anyway, on with our show. Today we've got another one of our popular Dynamite Conspiracy episodes.
Yes.
And yes, time permitting, of course, we're going to try and cover a number of subjects. But the first one, I think you came up with this, is the monkey effect. Do you want to
Well,
enlighten our audience who don't know what that is?
the 100th monkey effect is the
Okay.
proper name. It's not really a conspiracy. I'm not sure. I'm not sure any of these are conspiracies. But anyway, the audience will make up its own mind. But I don't think this is a conspiracy.
Okay.
This is the 100th monkey effect. You see, on an island, on a Japanese island in 1952, or thereabouts, but actually it was 1952, Japanese zoologists were watching, I think they were macaque monkeys. Don't quote me on that, I might be wrong. They were looking at these, watching these monkeys, and they were to get them out of the forest where the monkeys habituate. Nice. Even if I do say so myself. To get the monkeys out from the forest, they would drop sweet potatoes from helicopters onto, open area, and the monkeys would come out for the food. But when the potatoes landed on sand, dirt basically, and many of the monkeys naturally didn't really enjoy eating mouthfuls of dirt, so they didn't. At some point, one enterprising, I mean, not all of them were covered with dirt, some of them were okay, but one enterprising young female monkey, so everybody who says, I don't big up the females, don't forget that I mentioned this, because I could have hidden that from the audience. She, enterprising female, took her potato and washed it, wouldn't you know?
I think the story goes that she saw some land in the water.
So I saw some land in the water?
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Meaning that it landed at first, obviously the ones that she'd been eating were on the
land
sand.
From the air, you mean?
Yeah, land, yes.
I thought you meant she saw terrain in the water.
No. It landed in the water.
Oh,
when she fished it out and discovered there was no sand in it and thought, and the monkey was clever enough to work that out and thought, in the water there's no sand, but the ones over here are. So she dipped it in the water. Her name was, they named her Imo, IMO, and because she seemed quite with it, and she discovered herself that the washing cleared the sand away, and so that made the sweet potato more palatable.
Okay, that's a giant leap for monkey kind.
Well, yeah, they observe, don't they? They learn from observation.
That was a pretty good observation, because she didn't watch someone else doing it; she did it herself.
Yeah,
well, she saw inference, and all that sort of thing. And well, she was washing her potatoes thenceforth, and other monkeys, nearly as clever, I suppose, watched her and eventually caught on and started washing their potatoes too. And it gradually, and over a period of time, more and more monkeys were learning this trick, if you like, of washing their potatoes. This state of affairs persisted over, let's say, about 6 years, I think it was, until 1958. The 99th, sorry about that, I got distracted. The 99th monkey, 99 monkeys were doing this by 1958. So for 6 years, more and more monkeys were doing it. But in the 6th year, 100th monkey learned how to wash potatoes, sweet potatoes in water. And then a curious thing happened, in that almost immediately, all the monkeys suddenly knew how to wash potatoes in water, sweet potatoes in water. And it says, this is if you like, the legend, monkeys on other islands, on other Japanese islands, suddenly knew how to wash sweet potatoes, leading to the idea that there was some kind of shared consciousness and a critical mass beyond which the species learned. And there were this is the I like to call it the legend of the 100th monkey, because apparently that's been poo-pooed by some people.
It has, yes.
I'm more optimistic than you pretend to be the optimist, but I'm really the sort of the optimist, I believe.
Well,
so I'll let you do the be the downer.
I'll be the downer on this, because I did do some research about this, and it has been
questioned.
Well, there are some discrepancies in the recounting. Not necessarily the original experiment, but there are some. What's been happening is the stories that have blossomed from the original account have grown in
the telling.
In their telling, yes, indeed. Because there's a document that seems to suggest there was only 75 or 76 monkeys in total on the island. So for one, it never got to 100.
That would make it really difficult to get to 100.
It would make it very difficult indeed. And also this idea that other islands also, monkeys seem to inherently gain this knowledge of washing the sweet potatoes. The original researchers on that first island also reported at the second island. Now, that straight away adds doubt to the suggestion that it was something that once it reached 100, it would pass on, because they were making that claim. And by, how can I put it, trying to reinforce that claim, they said it spread. The same people said it spread to other islands. Now, had it been proven that people independently of these researchers had found this phenomenon on another island, then you could start to believe it. But when the same people who said that they discovered it on a separate island casts doubt, because they originally came up with this so-called phenomena in the first place. So to further enhance it, to give it more credence, they're going to say, oh, it's been noticed elsewhere, but they didn't provide any evidence that it occurred elsewhere. And what cast doubt on it was the fact that it was them that said the very same thing. So that, again, I'm not dismissing it out of hand, clearly not, but that does put some doubt into the message that's being sent, because they, not fabricate, that's too strong a word, but they could have, sort of inferred influence to make their original story more credible by saying they'd seen the same thing elsewhere.
Well, I don't like that attack vector, because it depends on disbelieving the researchers. It seems to me that if they claimed that monkeys on another island were doing the same thing, we should be able to go to that other island and see for ourselves. So it's easily confirmed or debunked. So I'm not going to take that very seriously, that particular objection. I think a more powerful objection was made by a chap called Richard Sheldrake.
Yes.
He was a scientist. Do you know his objection? Do you understand? Do you know about that at all?
He did a number of things, actually. He spoke about different things about the whole thing. He said that, what did he say? I'm trying to remember.
He said that actually it was a mistelling. Someone was telling the story. One of the people in an auxiliary role to the original researchers said something like this. I mean, it's not a direct quote. He said something like, "It's almost as if there's 100th monkey effect."
Yeah.
And that is what took off. But he was only making an illustration. He wasn't actually saying there was a 100th monkey effect. He was actually alluding to something and saying, if you imagine this and if you imagine that, then you could imagine that there's a 100th monkey effect. Yeah. But he wasn't at all intending for people to run away with it and go, oh yeah, there's a 100th monkey effect, and apparently was a bit taken aback when that is what happened.
It
But
caught on, didn't it? It caught on. It was a
you know, with
hypothesis
whom?
without any. It caught on because it was a
Yeah, with whom?
hypothesis. Well, with the media, I suppose, and it was
No,
them
the
that.
nuclear disarmament people. The nuclear disarmament people actually ran with it, thinking that if they could get a large percentage of the human population to think peaceful thoughts and to think nuclear disarmament, then there really would be peace, nuclear disarmament and peace. And that's why they ran with this notion.
I'm going to throw in something which could be conspiracy, could be something slightly out there. We, as human beings, our thoughts are waves because they're just pulses, billionth of a volt of electricity between neurons, and they create waves.
That's going too far, but I'll make my objection later.
Okay, but these, little volts of electricity that pass through your brain to send signals between the various neurons in your brain. I mean, that's simplification, by the way. That is actually a wave, and we are surrounded by waves all the time. And there's an implication regarding that if there are enough people thinking the same thing, you can affect physical objects. So, I mean, we've touched on this before, in an ESP episode and the like, where have we humans just lost that ability of manipulating matter with our minds, or has it been dumbed down? So if you've collectively got a big group of people, can you influence one another as well as your surroundings? I don't know. This is something that the monkey effect is a precursor for, because there's a lot of people out there, myself included in a way, do say that your brain is more powerful than you realize, and the law of attraction, I know you poo-poo that, but the law of attraction, there's some truth in this. It's strange, but it seems to work in certain circumstances. And this could be a couple of steps removed from that you've got a collective mind that could share ideas, not realize it. Ideas seem to pop into your head. It could have been sent from someone else who was in your vicinity, been thinking a similar thing. I don't know. We don't know enough about the human mind, but we do know it does strange things. And this is just the hypothesis. You were going to pick me up on something. What about the?
It's gone, pal. It's gone.
No, the billionth of the volt of electricity.
Oh yeah, right. So what you said, that our thoughts are carried on these waves, on this electrical voltages or whatever it is.
Only between the neurons.
Oh, between the neurons. I don't think that we can actually put consciousness in any one place. I believe we may have discussed this before. We've discussed so many things, but did I not discuss with you before that?
I don't think this is consciousness. This is just brain activity, and that is measured.
I'm only reacting to what you said, man. You said the thoughts carried on the wave, so I'm like, I'm not happy with that.
The neurons that fire between the points in the brain are picked up because you can do an ECG, an equivalent MRI, and you see that activity in someone's brain. So that is measurable. So you can see this sparking or whatever it is that's going on at different parts of the brain, depending on what the individual's asked to think about. So that does happen. And electricity by nature is a wave. You can create a wave. That's how you get electricity. You get a wave around a pole, don't you? You get that. If you go against the pylons, you've got a wave that comes out, because you could be nearby one of these high electricity pylons and you can actually not feel the electricity, but you can light up a tube. So you have this what's the word where it's affected out? There's a word for it, and now
I don't know if it's a word. There's action at a distance.
No, there's actually electricity creates a field, doesn't it?
Electromagnetic field.
Yeah, electromagnetic field. That's it. And so that's a genuine thing with electricity, and you've got that in your head to a much slower degree. But what I'm saying is collectively, going back to this monkey effect, if people were in close proximity and all thinking the same thing, could it generate shared
All right.
thoughts? You see
Okay,
what I mean?
I was going to mention that. So I said I had two things to talk about. Then you distracted me with the brain theory thing and blah, blah, blah. So I had to correct myself. It was not a Richard Sheldrake. It's a Rupert Sheldrake.
Okay.
So if audience members want to look it up, sorry about that. It's Rupert, Rupert,
Yeah.
Rupert Sheldrake. And he conducted, I believe it is the 1000th rat experiment, which was a slightly different thing, but it's coincidental if you're interested in such things.
What was that, if you want to summarize that? Can you summarize the 1000th rat, seeing as you brought it up?
The 1000th rat experiment showed that showed that ability is actually inherited genetically, because he what was it now? He varied, or he accounted for, he neutralized what do you call it? Environment, and there are two things, isn't it? There's environment, and then there's what you learn from your parents. What's it called? You know what I mean? It's
yeah. You're learning from your parents. It's observational, isn't it? It's learning.
Yeah, something. There's an expression in science. One is your genes, and the other
nurture.
is nurture. That's it. Thank you. Yes. So he this, what's the expression? What is it in science? All these words are going. In science, when you make an experiment and you make sure that these two variables don't matter. He controlled for this. He controlled for nurture, and he controlled for
nature,
for environment. So the only thing left was that could explain why these rats solved the problem quicker than other rats was genetic. So it's quite weird. Where they're learning, they learned how to avoid. Quickly, very quickly.
Yeah.
Rats were sent down a maze, but it got at a certain point. One passage was dark, and the other passage was light. And the rat's natural instinct is to take the light passage. But the light passage was electrified. And if they went down that way, they got a shock. And it took rats a certain number of tries to realize that, on this occasion, you've got to go against your instinct. You've got to go down the dark passage. Now, over generations, those that learned quickly kept learning quicker and quicker and quicker, irrespective of how they were brought up and who brought them up. Because sometimes he would take the ones who could learn quickly and have them brought up by, if you like, what he called dull rats. He called the two types of rats bright, as in the ones who solved the problem quickly, and dull. And it was always the same environment anyway. So that's what I mean by he controlled for environment and he controlled for nurture. And that was the 1000th thing, which is a big digression, because actually, I want to say that there was a random number generator experiment.
Go on.
And they had at least 2 computers in India that I know of, and several others around the world. But it was written by an Indian chap, and he was bigging up these two computers in India. And these 7 computers around the world all cooperated in generating a completely, totally random number. Now, over a period of time, the zeros and the ones in those numbers should kind of like equal out, because, that's totally random, right? And it's 50-50, so 50-50 is 50% of the time zeros, 50% of the time ones. But when a sufficient number of people, I think they used 1,000 people or something like this, when they thought about, nothing to do with the numbers, by the way, which is very strange. When they thought about something, I can't remember what it was, whether world peace or some weird thing like this. I don't remember the specifics, but people can look it up. It's called the random number generator experiment, okay? Then it skewed, the random numbers skewed statistically, what's the word? statistically what? When it becomes relevant,
Hmm.
not within error, right?
Okay.
Deviation, all right? Yeah,
Right.
it deviated more than any statistical standard deviation in
Yeah.
one direction, either too many zeros or too many ones. So somehow or the other, sort of as you've said,
Hmm.
this activity of these people was affecting the grand world.
Okay.
And that too was, and because it was done like this with random people and blah blah blah, and it's like if they're not syncing, they're not thinking together, then it's normal. And if they are in sync
Hmm.
and they are thinking together, then it's abnormal. So if you keep on repeating that experiment, after a while, you can't just poo-poo it. It's like, okay, how do you explain it then if you don't believe it? See, it
Okay.
becomes at that point, it becomes the onus falls on the people who want to do the poo-pooing. They can't just sort of brush it off. They go, well, how do you want to explain this?
Yeah.
And that's and I think because of that, there was this thing about the Indian nation wanted to clap all at the same time to
Clap.
achieve, yes,
Clap hands.
yeah, just clap hands all at the same time to achieve something. I don't know if they could pull it off or not, the actual experiment. They just wanted to get the whole nation just to stand there and just to, you know,
Clap.
applaud for,
Oh,
yes,
applaud.
and see if,
I mean, clapping in sequence is one thing, but applauding is another. I mean, everyone
no,
can
just
applaud.
applaud, just because everybody just doing together, maybe think good and happy thoughts if you can. And I'm not sure I could join in myself, but
Okay. So, okay, I'm mindful of the time here,
yes,
but
yes.
what's your conclusion about this monkey effect? Do you think it's true, or do you think it's just a fable that's just been extended? They did some research and did find some things, but is it where they say it is at 100 monkeys you have this shared intelligence?
Now, I spent an entire day and a half of my life going through this BBC archive. I distinctly remember watching a program in the late 70s or early 80s. I think it was the late 70s, could have been the very early 80s. And it was a BBC Two. And it was the BBC Two thing about maybe 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, one of those kind of programs. When they got people into an auditorium and they showed them a puzzle, and it took them a certain amount of time to solve the puzzle. And then they dismissed the first set of people and brought in another set of people.
Okay.
And they solved the
What
problem.
correlation was the second set to the first?
None.
Anything?
Just just totally random. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And the second set of people always solved the problem faster than the first set. Always. Every single time.
And the first set had no interaction with the second set
No, of course not.
whatsoever.
Of course not.
And it was there's no evidence to show that the first set in occasions did beat the second set. How many times was this experiment conducted?
Well, we saw the outcomes of it, which we were told. We didn't see every single cycle of it,
Yeah.
but we were told of it. And I think they've just done, I don't know, dozens and dozens or whatever it was, number of trials. A difference, just bringing a different, it wasn't the same set of people. So, just like a university going around and picking up students and things like that.
Yeah.
And just trying it, but this is
And
what
they
they found.
didn't have any interaction. Didn't actually say, "Oh, we've been on this show. We're gonna do something." No.
No. You're brought into the auditorium. You're shown the problem. It takes you a certain amount of time to solve it, and then off you go. Bye thing, and that's it. You've gone. You don't know what the hell you were doing there. Then another set of people who've been kept apart. They come in, they sit down, they give it, and they beat the time of the first set. Okay. Strongly suggesting that once one human being has learned something, we've all sort of learned it to a certain degree.
I don't know how truthful that is, but that's an interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. I've looked and looked and looked. I'm sorry, if anybody can find it and tell us, please do.
Okay, cool. All right. So, what's your synopsis then?
I do. I don't believe in the 100th monkey, that particular telling of it.
Yeah.
But I definitely believe in shared consciousness and things like that, because I think we've seen it before. You and I spoke about when people look at you, you just turn back. You just know you've been looked at. But why? Why would you know that?
Yeah, I'm not sure where that shared consciousness, that could be just heightened
People behind you.
senses. Yeah, but
People behind
heightened
you.
senses.
What kind of heightened sense is that? You don't have eyes in the back of your head.
No,
What
but
sense
that's
are you?
that's what I mean. We are dismissing that. You could have a sixth sense that we've just lost touch with, but it's sort of bubbling under the surface, and it comes out every so often. Rather than a shared consciousness, you could have an extrasensory perception in terms of sensing, and it's like there are some people who are more honed into that. They can sense it, and they can see someone, or they think, do you know what, this doesn't feel right, and they
I think
can't
it's a shared.
explain where they feel that emotion from.
I think it's a shared consciousness, because otherwise we wouldn't get eaten by tigers. If you are stepping on snakes or anything, you don't know when something is watching you. You know when an animal is watching you, but you do know when a human is watching you. Not You
Well,
don't
not
always know when a
no,
human is watching you,
exactly. So
but
if
quite
it was
often
repeatable, well,
I don't think so. I think we constantly wander into compounds, gardens where there are dogs that have been watching us and waiting for us to show up. We don't know anything about it until it's too late. On the other hand, when there's someone watching you, you just feel uncomfortable. You just like, not
is
all
that
the time.
shared no, well, I'm not sure
Anyway,
about that.
it's for another time. Maybe.
Indeed. Okay, so my conclusion is the same. I do not think that this is what's happened. Although there was another interesting part. This monkey, Imo, again attributed to her.
Mm.
She also discovered at a similar time, because they didn't just throw the sweet potatoes out; they threw wheat out as well. And
To float.
yeah, and the wheat floated on the water, and she scooped it up with no sand. So when some of the wheat landed in the sand, obviously she couldn't eat it because it was mixed with sand. But she would take a handful of it, throw it on the water. The sand would be heavier than the wheat, would drop down. The wheat remained near the surface, and she'd just scoop up the wheat, and then that's how she would eat it. So she quickly discovered that. I mean, clearly this monkey was way beyond her peers. Whether it's true or not, we don't know.
Yeah.
I know, incredible. But again, it could be urban legend. We don't know. But let's leave that behind, because I don't think there's enough there to warrant a definite conclusion. But I'm not convinced. I don't know what you, the listeners, think on this, but we'll move on. The next one is also another effect. We had the 100 monkey effect as our first topic, but this one is one again that you've brought up, Tayo, is the Mandela effect. Again, do you want to give an update or a recap of what that is for our listeners?
Well, no, I forgot my name, Louise Broom or someone, a South African woman at any rate. She was very surprised to hear on the 5th of December 2013 that Nelson Mandela had died. And she was taken aback. She was shocked, really. Not because he had died, but because she thought he was already dead. So she was like, hang on, I thought he died back in 1990, whatever it was she thought. And like, no, he's been alive. So what are you talking about? He's the president, he's blah, blah, blah. And by the way, that makes me ask the question. She was South African. Didn't she know he was the president, or had been the president? Anyway, he wasn't the president when he died, was he? So he had not been the president for a while. So she thought he had died at some point back then, right? And that would have been the end of the story. But in her confusion and state of mind and everything, she was talking to other people and said, yeah, sort of making fun of herself. Silly me, I thought. Other people were like, yeah, actually, now that you mention it, I thought he was already dead. And all these people thought, and then she went on to a program, she went on to a radio show or something, and all these people thought that he had died before he did. And they couldn't work it out. They were like, why is that? And then she got an interest in the subject for some weird reason. And it's called false memory, by the way. It's a false memory syndrome. And she was
Isn't
looking to
there a proper technical term for that? It's called confabulation.
Is it?
Mm.
I wonder if that's what confabulation meant, but okay, I'll look that up. That's not what I think it means, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
And she started looking into this and finding out, no, hang on, there are loads of people who've got loads of the same false memories of things. And she wrote a book and she named it the Mandela Effect. So she's actually the one who gave it a name. The Mandela Effect is a false memory shared by a large number of people. That's the definition of it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually the reason I brought up the word confabulation. That's a medical term for memory disorder where you actually make up the gaps in memory. So because our memory is quite flaky, we sometimes go and we try and remember a particular memory and we can't, and so we fill in the gaps with what we think happened because those memories have faded and almost disappeared. That's why when you have witnesses for things, it's very difficult to pin them down 100% and get the truth out of them, because you can have witnesses witnessing the same thing, but they give different stories, and you think, well, what's going on here? It's because none of them have clearly seen what's happened, but they filled in the blanks, and this is confabulation. And we even touched on it today about biases. They could be added in based on our previous biases to similar things we'd seen before. And what we're seeing is a similar scenario. And this is this Mandela Effect itself, someone said that could it have been as simple as a comedy sketch that was used in South Africa that made a joke about Nelson Mandela dying, and it took off and people had heard it but didn't know where. It's like you hear a tune and you think, I've heard that tune, where have I heard it before? And it's the same with this, where something has been said or on a TV program or similar, and it's gone out everywhere, but people weren't aware of where they heard it, and they put 2 and 2 together and made 5, and this is where it seemed to be a whole population or a big group who seemed to believe the same thing.
I have some difficulties with that. First of all, if it's that simple, why doesn't anybody remember the actual sketch? Who would have made a sketch of Nelson Mandela dying?
There's obviously people making jokes.
Sorry?
There's lots of people making jokes.
I don't think that would have been funny in South Africa.
No, possibly, but I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. That's a more plausible than everybody having this shared memory, unless you want to go completely out there, which is a Dynamite Conspiracy episode, and believe it's a glitch in the Matrix.
Well, the idea is there's supposed to be a glitch in the Matrix. I don't know about you, but I've suffered from the Mandela Effect myself. I would have sworn, and I think a lot of people would have sworn, that they had heard the expression "the bucket list."
The bucket list?
A long time ago.
The bucket list?
Yeah, when you make a bucket list.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think a bucket list is?
It's a list of all the things you want to do before you die, really.
Right, so you know it, I know it. Everybody feels they've known the bucket list is an old expression. It's been around forever.
Yep.
No, actually, it's been around since 2007. There is no reference to it anywhere on the internet or in print or anywhere before 2007.
That's really interesting. Because I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
In the early 90s, I was at a conference where there was a speaker from the USA, And I remember this vividly because his name was Bill O'Brien. He was very, very good. And he said at the time, you need to have a bucket list.
Okay.
And we were like, what does that mean? And he explained it. And this is in the early 90s. So whoever's coined that and said, oh, that only came out in 2007.
It's a very big thing. You can Google it on the internet. I can send you a link now if you want me to do that, because I've already done it for you. You're going to be shocked, as was I, that it's just not in print, man. If he said it, this man said it in 1990, whatever you said.
Yeah.
He did. He obviously didn't write that notes on it or anything because nobody can show it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So 2007 is the only recorded event.
It's when the film came out with what's his name now, Morgan Freeman.
Oh no, it was way before then.
Exactly. Everyone says so. Tyler says so. I say so.
Whoever's telling you it wasn't is talking nonsense. I'm sorry.
Do you know what? Why don't you then make yourself popular by actually showing us where it comes from, and become a superstar overnight, which would be great.
Okay.
My pal Tony is a star because he showed up everyone on the planet.
Well, honestly, I recall it because I remember doing it.
So there you go.
I actually did what he asked us to do from the stage.
I'll send you a link now, and what you do is you prove us all wrong, and that will go into our locals and Facebook blurb, and you'll be a superstar. You'll be able to swan around and go, I proved that it was not, but I think you should be very careful to do it.
Okay, that's interesting. Interesting. Because, like I said, I was in the audience when...
Well, I just know that I knew it. That's all. Well, I can't be more as specific as you.
So is that the Mandela Effect? Because
we've the Mandela Effect.
No.
That's exactly the Mandela Effect. There's a lot of people who remember it.
Yeah, but we know, and I know, that they're wrong.
No, you don't know you're wrong. You're very obdurate, and when you got a bee in your bonnet, you think you're right, and everybody else is wrong. That's not right. You got to prove it to us.
I got to prove it.
Yeah.
Well, they've got to prove it to me.
Well, that's that you can't find this. Like you can't find the black swan. Okay. So if you're saying there is a black swan, then okay, where is it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, have you got a Mandela Effect? Because I got a couple of more.
No, I haven't. Please go on. I don't have any of these where I've thought this has been
the other one that got me. I'm going to tell you the three got me. One didn't. So I'll start with the three that got me. The other one's the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa, the painting Mona Lisa with the smile and everything.
Yeah.
Has she got anything on her head?
Hasn't she got a scarf that only shows a part of her hair? Not a scarf, like a nun's thing. No?
It's got a veil.
Okay, that's the word.
It's got a black veil.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, very good. I never knew that. I would have sworn on the stack of Bibles that she didn't wear. She had nothing on her head.
Right. Okay.
That's what I remember. And
I thought she looked like a nun almost.
Well, that's amazing because you're the exact opposite from me.
Oh wow.
I am with a lot of other people. We're like, what do you mean? And when I look at it now, I'm like, I would never have missed that. Why would I have missed that?
Well, you could have done. Maybe you just weren't being as observant as you could be. It is a failing of us humans as we get older, where we're no longer. I mean, I've said it before on other shows actually, where our brain, because it's taxing, use up a lot of energy to take everything in.
A bunch of idiots. Is that what you're calling them?
No. We're lazy. And so what we do is
a bunch of lazy idiots.
Well, not idiots. I wouldn't say idiots. It's just the way that we observe stuff. We're not as attentive as we could be. And so because it consumes too much energy. So what we do is we look for patterns. And if it looks, if it looks like a woman, you sort of work it out in your head. It's a woman. You don't have to analyze it to the nth degree. It's a woman. So yeah, that'll do. So it's not necessary that we have to expend additional energy for looking at normal everyday things. And even looking at a painting such as the Mona Lisa, you still think it's a female. It's not a female with a horn. Then you would be more attentive because it's unusual.
I would actually say looking at her picture now, and I think I'm going to have to post this picture. I don't know who owns the copyright. I'm looking at this image of the painting. It's not obvious. I'm going to give myself a pass on this because it's really not obvious in this painting. But in this picture, but in another photo I saw it was really obvious. So it's possible that I've just seen photos where it's really hard to tell.
Yeah, quite possibly, because there's been so many reproductions of it. Spoof ones, real ones, modifications. Yeah, they have. Some have put slight smiles on her.
This is the one
and that's if that's the one you've seen with the slight smile. If you see the original, you'll think there's something wrong with it. So there's that as well.
I sent it to you, but no, this is the one on Wikipedia. And it's really difficult to see anything like a veil there. I don't know how you would have seen a veil in this, to be honest. I begin to question, what are you looking at?
Okay, I'll have a quick look while we're here.
Yeah.
That's very dark, that picture.
Possibly that's why it's hard to see the veil or something. But
yeah, but you can make it out because her hair is brown and the veil is black. So
could it be my eye thing? Could it be that my color perception is not sharp enough? Because I do have obviously this color thing. So maybe that's because what you just said to me is a bit, weird in that I don't see that at all.
Oh yeah, you can see that her hair is brown. It's wavy brown, isn't it? And then the actual the veil is just behind it. So that, granted, you can't see it very well at the top because it looks like she's got a parting. But when you're looking at this picture, you can still see that she's got brown hair. So that's how you work out.
I think my eyes don't pick it. So maybe that's my excuse that I can't actually see what you're saying.
Well, possibly, yeah. So exactly. So that doesn't make it a Mandela effect. It means it's an observational.
Well, okay, thing. That's well defended. I'll say for you've defended that well. Then the next one is maybe I don't know. You're a lapsed Christian. Were you a Catholic? You must have been from Italy.
I was a Catholic, yes.
So you're a lapsed Catholic, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So
obviously our listeners who'll be listening, obviously the first one we can describe because even though we're on audio only for those listening on the podcast, you can actually find a picture of the Mona Lisa everywhere. You just go on Google.
Yeah, I sent the one specifically in Wikipedia. Yeah. That's the one that I sent you, specifically from Wikipedia, from the Wikipedia page. All right, now what is this? What do you remember? Can you correct? Which is this? The lion shall lie down with the lamb. That's from the Bible.
Is that the exact quotation?
What do you think it is?
It doesn't sound right. Isn't that the one? That is a line from the Bible, but I don't think that's verbatim correct because it's supposed to describe heaven, where all the animals and everybody's in harmony. But I can't remember if that line you just read out was the actual line from the Bible.
No, very good, because I'd have sworn on a stack of Bibles that it was correct, because that's what I remember. The lion shall lie down with the lamb. And it turns out that the actual quotation is, the wolf also shall dwell with the lamb. Which doesn't sound right at all. I don't know if it sounds right to you. It doesn't sound right to me.
No, I'm surprised that
the actual quotation is the wolf also shall dwell with the lamb.
So there was no mention of lion.
No.
Could that have been
unbelievable?
Yeah, interesting. I think where was the Bible put together?
What do you mean where?
Well,
okay, where? Well, in Constantinople in 324 AD.
There's not really many lions there, you see. So hence they put down about.
Oh, but the Romans, you remember they were mad for games.
The Romans were for lions.
Yeah. And that's Constantinople, wasn't it? That's at the time. But by that time, the Roman Empire was headquartered in Constantinople, named after, of course, Emperor Constantine, which is a bit of a oof. And I think it is now today what we call Istanbul, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, what was it called before then? I can't remember what it was called before
Now you're
Constantine.
asking me. That's flaky
But
memory now.
but yeah, that's where it was. So and of course they had all these Roman games. Remember the Colosseum and the games and whatnot. So they'd be very familiar with lions and things, which is brought in from all over the world to come and fight in there and entertain them.
Yes. Okay. So, I mean, what's your I mean, I'm mindful of the time because we want to
One more.
discuss the one
Well,
more. But what's
the
your
most
view on
famous
the
one, the most
Mandela effect? Go
famous
on.
one is the fruit of the loom. Do you know the fruit of the loom?
The fruit of the loom.
The
Yes,
logo.
I do. The logo. Yes.
Is there or is there not in it a cornucopia?
Uh, I'm trying to think of one of my tops. No, from
Oh,
the image of the top that I've got. No, I don't think there's a cornucopia. I've seen a cornucopia in an image which is similar, I suppose, but not on the actual logo.
a lot of people think there's a corn. I don't know anything about the fruit of the loom, so I'm out of this one. So
Okay.
you more or less kind of, I know about the bucket list. So I'll give you 4 on 4 because there is no cornucopia, but a lot of people remember it with a cornucopia.
See, that doesn't make it a Mandela effect. I mean, like I said, we've mentioned it already. Could it be glitch in the matrix where you had one timeline, we had the glitch, and now we're following a different timeline effectively within the matrix?
That's the thinking. Whether it is right or wrong, it's
It's
a big ask, but
it is, but it could also be a simpler answer that people are, like I said, are just not as observant as they think they are. They
yeah,
get
but actually,
confused.
but for everybody to actually put a cornucopia in the same place. Now, if they were in different places, I'd
Well, they
agree
must
with
have
you.
seen it elsewhere. You're programmed, your mind is programmed of what you see. And if there's been examples of a similar fruit
But
in a
if you're saying if, yeah,
yeah,
if,
that but
but
happens. We
but
get in.
everything, your whole argument rests on if, and you can't
Okay.
show this if. Where's
How
the if?
many people
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
have claimed that they had the cornucopia and how many haven't? So just get this range of numbers. Is it a huge number? Is it a quarter of the population? Are we only looking at a small number of people?
I don't have the details, but it wouldn't be a small number because that would be ridiculous. It wouldn't
Well,
make it
why?
well
Why would
because
it be ridiculous?
it would just not be a Mandela effect. If it's
Well,
not at least hundreds of thousands or millions, I would say
well,
it's not a Mandela.
how would it qualify to be a Mandela effect? We
By
don't even
being
have the
hundreds.
numbers here.
Well, no, because the research thing that I'm doing, I didn't go into that. I got to read the woman's book. I'm not going to buy a flipping book. I'm not going to buy a book.
But
So,
this is where I'm saying it could be something simpler than that. That the numbers who
no,
claim
no,
differently are
no.
actually minute in comparison to those that.
We'd have to go into it and find out where she got her numbers from. How did she figure that out?
I think
Where did
there's
she run the polls and
more
things
as
like
either
that?
a psychological effect or a simpler one where people are just not observant because they're being fooled by
It could be faulty research because you might need to show people the cornucopia in different positions for one thing,
yeah.
and then ask, well, is it like this? Is it like what do you remember? But I mean, I think people can actually look it up on the internet. When I was doing my sort of superficial research on this for myself, all the cornucopia were in one particular position.
Is
And
that purely how the report was wanting to reinforce that Mandela effect for an
most of the
article?
questionnaires were had it in one place, and only a couple had them in different places. So I don't know. The things, the ones in different places just looked off. They just didn't look right to me at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
And I don't even know the fruits of the loom. So
Mm.
maybe if it had a cornucopia, that's where you'd put it, as a
Yeah,
graphic artist.
a good example is now we have the technology to actually find this out for ourselves. What you can do is take that, maybe edit out the word fruit of the loom and just get the fruit image,
Mm,
put it on Google and do a search on the image,
mm,
and it will find all occurrences that look similar to that. And if it finds that there are examples of that image of fruit with a cornucopia and there's more of them, then you can see where that could have come from. that people have just got confused seeing both. That's
Well,
how I see it. I think it's more a psychological answer as opposed to a real effect.
we'll wait till you come back and with your bucket list thing, poo-poo
Yes,
the
I
whole
will
thing
look at
and
that one
become
for sure, because that is one.
and
Right,
become famous.
come on. Right. So, what's your conclusion then? Mandela effect. Is it?
I don't believe it's a glitch in the matrix, but at the same time, I certainly do remember that the bucket list wasn't news to me. I don't remember that being a phrase I hadn't heard before.
So, what's your explanation then? If you
I don't know,
if you
brother.
believe it,
I don't know.
not a glitch in the matrix.
No, I don't believe it's a glitch in the matrix. Why would we remember some things? If we've been renewed, we've just been renewed. Everything's gone. In fact, it's not that it's gone; it's that it never happened. So how can you remember something that didn't happen? That to me is why this.
But that's the whole point of the glitch in the matrix.
That's why I believe that these time slip problems films never make any sense because it didn't happen. And they say, "Well, I remember it." You can't remember; it didn't happen.
Well, this is where we can get. The only constant in the universe is your consciousness. So that those things may have happened because the timeline changed, but you are still you. So that's why you remember it. So you've shifted between either the matrix glitches or the timelines, whichever way you want to describe it. And we just so happened have switched timeline, or glitch has moved us into a different timeline, and we remember it from the previous timeline, or a lot of people do, whereas the timeline in the one we're now in doesn't have that entry. So it's an interesting one, and it's very out there. But we're doing a Dynamite Conspiracy one. Whether you believe this fit in that or just loosely fits in there is for you, the listener, to discuss anyway. Right.
I'm not buying that.
Okay, let's move on because I'm mindful of the time. Very quickly, the final one that we wanted to discuss today, and again it's yours because you picked these three, is the Paris syndrome. What the heck is this?
This one had me laughing all afternoon. I've been laughing and laughing and laughing. It's so funny. The Paris syndrome is medically recognized, let's not forget this, guys, right? A medically recognized syndrome that afflicts primarily Japanese people, but increasingly South Koreans and Chinese. And the affliction happens when these people travel to Paris and see Paris for what it really is. And the disappointment is so acute that they fall ill. You see, Japan, for instance, right? We know it's clean, even in its smallest prefectures, almost spotless. It's very clean. The people are assiduously polite, and by nature they're quiet. That's the society: politeness, quietness, cleanliness.
Yeah.
Try to be accommodating.
Okay.
And then they go to Paris, where they meet people who are impolite.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, they've got this romanticized idea of Paris, apparently.
Well, everybody does.
No, apparently
they
the Japanese.
Do.
No. Apparently the Japanese have really gone in for. They really go in for
but
this.
Then that's their culture, and it's been sold to them in such a way.
It has. Yeah. So when they get on the plane and they go to Paris, they're like this, Paris.
Yeah,
right? You and I are
dreamy and
Yeah, you and I are like, Paris, okay?
Yeah,
I mean, most of the people around the world be like, okay, I'm going to see Paris, fine.
Yeah, cool.
So I'm going to New York, I'm going to London.
Yeah.
But no, the Japanese are Paris. Who knows, beating hearts, they're going to meet the heartthrobs there, whatever, So
their expectations are set too high.
Sky high. Their expectations are sky high.
Right.
And then they get in Paris, it's dirty, it's smoky, the people are rude, they don't want to even speak your language, they hardly communicate with you. And it leads to psychological distress. And what makes me laugh is the list of symptoms
Okay.
That is, by the way, it's so bad that there's a 24-hour, 7 days a week hotline to the Japanese embassy for their nationals to call if they need to be evacuated back to Japan. And apparently up to 10 people every year.
Okay. That's still a small number.
Well, it's the fact that
Considering
it's even
1.1 million Japanese travel to Paris and France,
even if it's
per
just
year.
one who needs to be evacuated because basically can't stand the city. I mean, that's a bit.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, think about the logic. If you've got 10 people and this is a recognized syndrome, it's clearly not, one of your biggies out there. Let's be perfectly honest, because people can have psychosomatic issues over anything.
Well, I haven't heard about anything for any other city, have you?
Well, I suppose if we look hard enough. No, come on. There's bound to be one for London. There's definitely one for Birmingham.
I've never heard of anything to do with Birmingham.
For Birmingham?
Let me share the list.
Even the Birmingham people say it. So come on, it's got to be true.
No. Because I've been to see. I myself have been to Paris, and I
had a great time.
I hated the place.
Oh, I loved it.
The taxi driver was very rude and very. The second taxi driver, the first one was very nice. The second guy was irritated me because he charged me and my family and me. He charged us for using our phones in his car.
He charged you for using your own phone in his car.
Yeah.
Why was it not permittable?
Well, he said that that's the charge for the internet. We said we didn't connect your freaking internet, guy. We're on our flipping phone. I was like, no, that's the charge. And I was prepared to look. You know what? Let's stop a gendarme because I need this to be
quick,
confirmed by someone. I can't believe.
Right, yeah.
Like that. And the girls were like, "Man, we want to go to the Eiffel Tower. There's asking for 3 or 4 francs or whatever the heck it was." Euro, not francs.
That doesn't.
Anyway, I'm saying sorry because I just hated the place. It's just I too had this, but not as I didn't. What I did not have were these following symptoms, right? Hyper. What's it called? What's that mean?
Oh yes. Oh, good grief! When you have a hyper attack or something, you hyperventilate. There you go.
Is it called hyperventilation? That doesn't sound right. Okay,
no, it is.
I've actually written it down here, but it doesn't sound right. Hyperventilation, cold sweats, passing out, acute delusional state. That got me laughing. A temporary inability to speak, sleeplessness, hyperanxiety.
Sleeplessness? How is that affected by? Oh God, okay.
Hyperanxiety, hallucinations, dizziness, and this is the one: the development of a persecution complex.
Okay, look. These symptoms, let's be honest, right? Could they not have been there beforehand?
No, they were fine. Then they got off at a plane in Paris. They got out of LaGuardia. What's the name of the stupid airport? What?
What?
What's the name of the airport again?
What, Charles de Gaulle?
Is it Charles de Gaulle?
Charles de Gaulle, yeah.
They got a Charles de Gaulle, and just a couple of days later, they're doing this. Yeah. Look, that's not a good look. And they've got a hotline to the Japanese it's an embassy.
Well, okay. What I can deduce from that is that their embassy cares for their population. If anyone else has got it, they won't give them monkeys and think,
if enough people did it. And if
it's only 10, that can't be a lot, can it?
Well, if it's a recognized syndrome. It's a recognized syndrome. Because what it said is like the way I was reading this. Come on,
there's syndromes for all stupid. Did you know
this? When I was reading this, the guy said it is the 21st century equivalent of the gout. And what was the gout? The gout was the 19th century rich man's disease, right? So the way the Japanese have been brought up in this protected, almost pristine atmosphere, it doesn't prepare them for things like that. They're simply not prepared. You and I were ruffians, so we were brought up in, I was brought up in Nigeria, you were brought up here. We can get out and rough and tumble with everyone because that's the kind of upbringing we've had. But these people are really sheltered. And not only have they been sheltered, they've been sold this
Yes. Well,
this
they've just
image.
oversold and underdelivered. It's just expectations
But
were
I just have
wrong.
this persecution complex and severe paranoia. And I can actually imagine it. I think why I find it so funny is that I can actually imagine that if I was living in Paris, I think to be honest with you, I think I'd feel persecuted, and they're just not a nice people.
Hmm.
The
Okay.
French,
Well,
in my
I mean,
opinion.
you've just had a bad experience, and then you've tarnished the whole French population from it. I
Well, even
mean,
before I got there, I was trying to hire a tour guide, someone who would meet us. The whole idea was going on the tube, what's it called again? The Eurostar.
Eurostar. Yeah, yeah,
Have someone meet us there and then take us round,
yeah, yeah, yeah. A proper guided tour.
and
Yeah, yeah.
the two of them, but the second one in particular, she was always saying, "Call me at this time," and it was a power play. It's like, look, I'm paying you money, right?
Hmm.
Why do I have to call you at your time?
Yeah.
So when will I call? I'll call you tomorrow. Okay. So it's like, no, don't call me tomorrow. Call me the day after. Or she just made sure that whatever I wanted to choose wasn't available. And I was like, I don't understand this. I'm supposed to pay you money and you just want to control me from the beginning. So
What
I just,
sort of services do you pay for? Good grief. You seem
don't you
like
think it's nice?
you've
Don't you
got.
think it's nice to be met somewhere by
Well, yeah,
people who
absolutely.
know?
I've been on a tour exactly like that, and ours was fantastic. So I don't know what you're paying. You're paying basement payments, and you're getting the dodgiest people.
I'm
I
not
mean,
getting it. It was something fantastic, like 300 euro for the day or something.
oh, okay. I'm surprised that didn't
And
pan out for
the
you.
others who wanted to, who were like less of a problem to me, unfortunately, were booked. So I'm not surprised this clown wasn't booked. I'm not,
And saw you coming. Oh, he'll do. Yeah.
yeah, but obviously she lost the business. We never did anything with her. I
Oh,
thought
wow.
she'd come in, which nice restaurants and things like that. And she was supposed to be. I was going to pay with for her to come into the restaurants with us and be with us for the day.
Hmm.
But no, she didn't want to. So
Wow.
so that
Okay.
already I went to sort of thinking I don't really like this was to be obdurate.
I think that's tarnished your view. If you go again, if you'd gone with the service we went with, you would have enjoyed it. We clearly all
Maybe you were
enjoyed it.
actually shielded
No,
from
we
them
weren't
by
shielded
the
at all. We
because
actually went and mixed and did stuff. We went out to the bars. We went back to the restaurants. No, we weren't shielded at all. We even went to one of these shows, can shows. We were inside and had meal in there, and other people coming up to us, and so no, it was great, absolutely brilliant. So,
maybe just a bunch of racists then.
well, I'll be surprised because
Could be.
France is quite a ethnic, diverse country.
Well,
So,
they've got people in there, but they don't like them. What should they? They don't like the
oh,
North
come on,
Africans.
that's a big jump anyway.
No, but it's
Right,
true.
look, come on, I'm mindful of the time here.
Tell me
We've
about
talked about
Birmingham.
this one. Hey?
Tell me about Birmingham.
Oh yeah, Birmingham. Oh, it was just a joke, really, because we were saying how bad it is and how dull and dreary it is when you first go in, and when it's raining, it's one of the most depressing places to go. It just
It would be nice if Birmingham was in England, but it isn't.
Birmingham is not in England.
Have you been?
Birmingham
Yeah, yeah.
in central England.
Well, it used to be. It's not now. Now it's in the subcontinent. Now you get out. Now you come out of the train and you think quite reasonably that you probably need a passport. So when you look around, that's what I
I'm
felt.
not going there. Come on.
That's
Look,
what I felt.
let's talk about this Paris syndrome, and you were saying it's really weird. There's other syndromes that are recognised. You said this is recognised and makes it
Yes.
weird. Yeah, but there's some people got allergy to water, for instance. There's a aquagenic urticaria. It's a water allergy. You can't have water on your skin because you can come out in rashes.
So the skin actually comes out in rashes, right?
Yeah, you
So
can't.
if the skin actually comes out in rashes, it's not the person making it up.
No, this is a real one.
Well, if people are
Paris
losing it,
syndrome going to have some symptoms. Of course they are. I'm not disputing the symptoms, but it just means that this is rare. I mean, this water allergy is incredibly rare. The same with the Paris syndrome. It has to be recognised because it has to be documented.
so it's something. Is what I'm trying to say. It's something. It's not it almost sounded like you were like, yeah, it's nothing. It's just people just
Oh,
acting
well,
up.
if it's only 10 people a year, then it's not a great deal, is
So,
it?
so over 10 years, that's 100 people. I mean, it
Could
kind of
be the
racks
same
up.
10.
I don't think, I think one poor lady I read about, and I don't know when she went, but she was so traumatized that she doesn't even travel any longer. She won't even leave Japan any longer.
Because, what was she attacked?
No, it's just
Just by seeing the city, and that's what it did.
and the feelings of isolation. It's like losing a lover, in a sense.
Wow.
I'm putting that in for them. They're not the ones saying that, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying
yeah.
that the level of disappointment, this fantasy you've had in your head for all this time. I bet if they had gone to if they had fantasized about virtually any other country, that would been fine. But just unfortunately, this chose Paris, and
I'm really surprised by that. Okay, but anyway, look, I'm mindful of the time. We've gone quite a bit over what we would have done. So, what's your conclusion about the
don't
Paris
go to
syndrome?
Paris, man.
Don't listen to
Be like
Tayo. Beautiful
Tyre.
place. I
Ignore.
loved it.
Just give France a pass, man. Just no.
No, no, no. Lovely place. Love it. I'll definitely do it again. So don't listen to Tayo. It's a great place. But anyway, unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.